In the quiet hours of a standard monitoring shift at the Lunar Observatory, Dr. Kim Ju-woo stifled a yawn as she scanned the routine deep space signals. Most days, her work involved documenting the endless cosmic background radiation and occasional pulsar flashes, important but rarely exciting. The observatory, built into the Moon's Tycho crater, housed Earth's most sensitive array of quantum detection equipment. It was a marvel of human engineering, but today it felt like just another office to Ju-woo as she sipped her synthetic coffee. A soft chime from her console broke the monotony. "Anomalous signal detected," announced the system's calm voice. Ju-woo straightened in her chair, spilling a few drops of coffee onto her uniform. Anomalous signals were rare but usually explainable. A cosmic ray burst, a previously uncharted pulsar, or sometimes just equipment glitches. "Source identification," she asked, tapping commands into her interface. The system hesitated, which was unusual for the quantum processors that powered it. Then it displayed a code Ju-woo had never seen before: HFY-12 active. "That can't be right," she muttered, running a diagnostic. The code remained unchanged. Ju-woo's heart began to race as she accessed the deep archives. HFY-12 referred to the Quantum Entanglement Communications Array aboard Voyager XII, a deep space probe launched in 2057, nearly a century ago. It had been one of humanity's most ambitious early attempts at interstellar exploration, equipped with experimental technology that had failed almost immediately after launch. The probe had been silent for 98 years. It had been written off as a noble failure, its connection to Earth severed when the quantum entanglement array malfunctioned beyond the orbit of Neptune. The probe had continued its journey, but without the ability to report its findings, it became just another human-made object lost to the vastness of space. Yet here was its signal, impossibly active again. Ju-woo activated the emergency protocols and sent an alert to the observatory's director, Dr. Han Seojin. Within minutes, the quiet monitoring room transformed into a hive of activity as other scientists rushed in. "Is this some kind of drill?" asked Dr. Yang Min-ho, the quantum communications specialist who had been enjoying his dinner break. "No drill," Ju said, pointing to her display. "Voyager XII is somehow back online." Min-ho's face paled. "That's impossible. The entanglement array was damaged beyond repair. We couldn't fix it remotely, and nothing out there could have." "Yet here we are," interrupted Dr. Han as he hurried into the room. The director's usual calm demeanor was replaced with barely contained excitement. "What are we receiving?" Ju displayed the incoming data stream. "It started with simple telemetry, but now we're getting more. A lot more." The screens filled with scrolling data, star charts, radiation readings, gravitational measurements, and complex equations that made little sense to anyone in the room. "This data isn't ours," Min-ho said softly. "These measurement systems, these notations, they're not human." A chill spread through the room as the implications sank in. "There's more," Ju said, her voice barely a whisper. She tapped a command, and a simple text message appeared. "We were DRONG. TAEY VBEN along." The message was followed by coordinates and a trajectory. Voyager XII was returning to the solar system at speeds that defied all known physics. "That's impossible," Min-ho repeated, but with less conviction. "Nothing can travel that fast without technology far beyond our own," Dr. Han finished. He turned to Ju. "When will it reach our system?" Ju ran the calculations. "At its current speed, 3 weeks." Dr. Han took a deep breath. "Check and double-check the signal. Make sure this isn't some elaborate hoax or system error. Then contact Earth Security Council. Market Priority Alpha." As the team worked frantically to verify the signal, more data poured in. Detailed scans of star systems humanity had never visited. Complex mathematical proofs solving problems Earth's best minds had struggled with for generations. And images, strange, beautiful images of worlds no human had ever seen. "Look at this," Jiwoo called out, projecting a series of recordings. The footage showed what appeared to be Voyager XII, but significantly altered. Its simple solar panels and communication array had been replaced with crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around them. The probe's original NISA markings were still visible, but they were surrounded by intricate patterns etched into its surface. "Something found our probe," Dr. Han said, staring at the footage. "Something repaired it. Something sent it back." "But why?" asked Minho. "And what did it mean by they've been watching us all along?" No one had an answer. 3 hours later, the lunar observatory was locked down by Earth security forces. Military ships were already being readied throughout the solar system, taking up defensive positions. Politicians were being woken from their sleep, and the quantum entanglement array continued to transmit data at an ever-increasing rate. Jiwoo found herself isolated in a secure room, debriefing General Choi from Earth Defense. "You're certain this is the actual Voyager XII probe?" the general asked for the third time. "Yes," Jiwoo replied patiently. "We verified its quantum signature. It matches the original. But it's been modified extensively by technology we don't understand. And these modifications allow it to travel at these speeds. Apparently, the physics involved are beyond our current understanding." General Choi frowned. "What about weapons? Any sign of offensive capabilities?" Jiwoo shook her head. "None that we can detect, but we wouldn't necessarily recognize them if they were advanced enough." The general nodded grimly. "And your professional opinion, Doctor? Are we facing a threat?" Jiwoo considered the question carefully. "I don't know. But whatever sent this probe back to us could have attacked at any time without warning. Instead, they repaired our technology, enhanced it, and sent it home with information. That suggests communication rather than conquest." In the days that followed, the news spread across Earth and its colonies. Humanity had sent hundreds of probes into deep space over the last century. Most were presumed lost, traveling silently into the void. Now one had returned, changed, and bearing a message that shook the foundations of human understanding. Humanity was not alone, and they never had been. As Voyager XII approached the edge of the solar system, more detailed transmissions arrived. Star maps showing 17 distinct civilizations within a relatively small cosmic neighborhood. Historical records suggesting observation of Earth dating back thousands of years. And something else, assessments of human art, music, and literature that hinted at a profound interest in humanity's creative capacity. In her private quarters, Jiwoo reviewed the latest data, unable to sleep despite her exhaustion. The returning probe carried a message that went far beyond a simple greeting from the stars. Whatever had found Voyager XII seemed to view humanity with a mixture of curiosity and something that almost resembled reverence. "They've been watching us," she whispered to herself, echoing the probe's message. But the data suggested something even more profound. They had been learning from us. 3 weeks later, as promised by its trajectory data, Voyager XI entered the solar system, and it was not alone. Following in its wake came something vast and crystalline, its structure defying conventional geometry. First contact was no longer a theoretical possibility. It had arrived. The massive dome structure of Titan Base gleamed under Saturn's distant light. Once just a small research station, it had grown into humanity's premier deep space monitoring facility. The orange-brown methane clouds of Titan swirled beyond the reinforced windows as Director Park Min-ho paced the central command room. "Any update on the probe's approach?" he asked, his voice tense. Lee Sunhwa, the head of tracking systems, nodded. "Voyager XI has slowed considerably. It's currently passing Neptune's orbit. At its current speed, arrival at Titan in approximately 36 hours. Min-ho nodded, trying to maintain his composure. In the week since the lunar observatory had detected the returning probe, Earth's governments had moved with unprecedented unity. Titan Base, the furthest major human outpost from Earth, had been designated as the primary contact point. Military vessels maintained a defensive perimeter around Earth, while civilian populations were kept surprisingly calm through careful information management. And the visitor? Minho asked, maintaining distance behind the probe. It's massive, at least 2 kilometers across. Still no response to our greeting messages. Minho had assembled the best minds available for this historic moment. Linguists, physicists, exobiologists, cultural analysts, and military advisors filled the command center, all working frantically to prepare for humanity's first contact with an alien intelligence. Dr. Kang Yuna, Earth's leading quantum physicist, approached with a tablet in hand. Director, we've completed our analysis of the latest data package from Voyager XI. It's remarkable. Minho followed her to the main display where she projected a series of complex diagrams. The probe's original structure is still intact, but it's been modified with technology that's centuries beyond our current capabilities, Yuma explained. The quantum entanglement array wasn't just repaired. It was completely redesigned using principles we're only beginning to theorize about. Could we reproduce any of this? Minho asked. Yuna laughed softly. Maybe in 100 years. The materials alone are unlike anything we've developed. Some appear to be programmable matter that can change properties based on energy inputs. Colonel Jokuk, the military liaison, frowned. So they're showing off their technological superiority. Classic intimidation tactic. I don't think so, said Dr. Han Jun, the cultural analyst who had been quietly studying a different set of data. Look at this. He displayed what appeared to be a catalog. Thousands of human cultural artifacts organized in meticulous detail. Books, music, paintings, films, games, and more. All with attached analysis in an alien script that had been helpfully translated back to multiple human languages. They call themselves the archivists, Han explained. As best we can tell, they're a civilization dedicated to collecting and preserving knowledge from across the galaxy. They found our probe by chance and were fascinated by the information stored in its memory banks. Information? Asked Colonel Joe. Voyager XI was primarily a scientific probe. It carried basic information about Earth, yes, but nothing particularly valuable. That's where you're wrong, Han said. Like the original Voyager probes from the 20th century, Voyager XI carried samples of human culture, music, literature, art, scientific achievements. The archivists were apparently stunned by what they found. Minho leaned closer to the screen. Stunned in what way? Han scrolled through more translated documents. According to this, the archivists have cataloged 17 other spacefaring civilizations in our region of the galaxy. All technologically advanced, all logical and methodical in their development. But none of them possess what they call the creative spark to the degree that humans do. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They've been cataloging us like we're some cosmic anomaly, Minho finally said, turning to the assembled team. According to this data, human creativity and adaptability are virtually unique among spacefaring civilizations. Our art, music, literature, they've been collecting it all. Dr. Kim Mincio, the team's leading linguist, pointed to another section of the transmission. There's more. The archivists haven't just been studying us. They've been sharing our cultural artifacts with other civilizations. Human creativity has apparently become something of a sensation. A sensation? Colonel Joe looked incredulous. You're saying aliens are fans of human art? Not just fans, Mincio replied. According to this, exposure to human creative works has triggered significant cultural shifts in at least 3 other civilizations. They're describing it almost like a renaissance. Han nodded excitedly. The archivists theorize that most intelligent species evolve toward perfect logic and efficiency, eventually losing their emotional range and creative capacity. They believe this leads to technological plateau, periods where advancement slows or stops completely. And humans haven't followed this pattern? Minho asked. No, We've maintained our emotional capacity alongside our technological growth. To these other civilizations, that makes us extremely unusual and valuable. The implications were staggering. Humanity had always imagined first contact would position them as the less advanced species, students rather than teachers. Yet here was evidence suggesting that despite their technological inferiority, humans possessed something rare and precious in the galaxy: creativity fueled by emotional depth. Minho had assembled the best minds available for this historic moment. Linguists, physicists, exobiologists, cultural analysts, and military advisors filled the command center, all working frantically to prepare for humanity's first contact with an alien intelligence. Dr. Kang Yuna, Earth's leading quantum physicist, approached with a tablet in hand. Director, we've completed our analysis of the latest data package from Voyager XI. It's remarkable. Minho followed her to the main display where she projected a series of complex diagrams. The probe's original structure is still intact, but it's been modified with technology that's centuries beyond our current capabilities, Yuma explained. The quantum entanglement array wasn't just repaired. It was completely redesigned using principles we're only beginning to theorize about. Could we reproduce any of this? Minho asked. Yuna laughed softly. Maybe in 100 years. The materials alone are unlike anything we've developed. Some appear to be programmable matter that can change properties based on energy inputs. Colonel Joe Cook, the military liaison, frowned. So they're showing off their technological superiority. Classic intimidation tactic. I don't think so, said Dr. Han Jun, the cultural analyst who had been quietly studying a different set of data. Look at this. He displayed what appeared to be a catalog. Thousands of human cultural artifacts organized in meticulous detail. Books, music, paintings, films, games, and more. All with attached analysis in an alien script that had been helpfully translated back to multiple human languages. They call themselves the archivists, Han explained. As best we can tell, they're a civilization dedicated to collecting and preserving knowledge from across the galaxy. They found our probe by chance and were fascinated by the information stored in its memory banks. Information? Asked Colonel Joe. Voyager XI was primarily a scientific probe. It carried basic information about Earth, yes, but nothing particularly valuable. That's where you're wrong, Han said. Like the original Voyager probes from the 20th century, Voyager XI carried samples of human culture, music, literature, art, scientific achievements. The archivists were apparently stunned by what they found. Minho leaned closer to the screen. Stunned in what way? Han scrolled through more translated documents. According to this, the archivists have cataloged 17 other spacefaring civilizations in our region of the galaxy. All technologically advanced, all logical and methodical in their development. But none of them possess what they call the creative spark to the degree that humans do. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They've been cataloging us like we're some cosmic anomaly, Minho finally said, turning to the assembled team. According to this data, human creativity and adaptability are virtually unique among spacefaring civilizations. Our art, music, literature, they've been collecting it all. Dr. Kim Mincio, the team's leading linguist, pointed to another section of the transmission. There's more. The archivists haven't just been studying us. They've been sharing our cultural artifacts with other civilizations. Human creativity has apparently become something of a sensation. A sensation. Colonel Joe looked incredulous. You're saying aliens are fans of human art? Not just fans, Mincio replied. According to this, exposure to human creative works has triggered significant cultural shifts in at least 3 other civilizations. They're describing it almost like a renaissance. Han nodded excitedly. The archivists theorize that most intelligent species evolve toward perfect logic and efficiency, eventually losing their emotional range and creative capacity. They believe this leads to technological plateau. periods where advancement slows or stops completely. And humans haven't followed this pattern. Minho asked. No, we've maintained our emotional capacity alongside our technological growth. To these other civilizations, that makes us extremely unusual and valuable. The implications were staggering. Humanity had always imagined first contact would position them as the less advanced species, students rather than teachers. Yet here was evidence suggesting that despite their technological inferiority, humans possessed something rare and precious in the galaxy: creativity fueled by emotional depth. As the team continued analyzing the data, a new transmission arrived from Voyager XI. This one contained detailed profiles of the other known civilizations, along with records of their reactions to human cultural artifacts. The Zori, a species that had achieved space travel 6,000 years before humans, had experienced a cultural revolution after exposure to human music. Their rigid mathematical approach to sound had been transformed by the emotional resonance of human compositions. The Eltha, beings of pure energy who communicated through light patterns, had developed new forms of expression after studying human poetry. Concepts like metaphor and symbolism had been entirely foreign to them before. This is why they sent the probe back, Una said quietly. They're not just studying us. They're inviting us to join them. A message followed the cultural data, more direct than previous communications. Your emotional capacity has become a subject of intense study across the galaxy. We request formal contact with representatives of humanity to establish cultural exchange protocols. Your species possesses a resource more valuable than any technology: the ability to create meaning through emotional expression. This is rare and precious among the stars. 24 hours later, as Voyager XI approached Titan Base, final preparations were underway for the first official meeting between humanity and the archivists. A delegation would board a special shuttle designed to dock with Voyager XI, which would then serve as an intermediary between humans and the massive archivist vessel that followed behind it. In his private quarters, Director Park Minho reviewed the personnel files of those selected for first contact. Each had been chosen not just for their scientific expertise, but for their cultural sensibilities as well. Artists alongside scientists, poets with engineers, a cross-section of humanity's dual nature. He paused at a window, looking out at Saturn's rings gleaming in the distance. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for generations, imagining hostile invasions or benevolent saviors. Never had they considered that what aliens might value most would be human art and emotion, the very things many had considered secondary to technological advancement. We were so busy looking for life among the stars, he said to himself, that we never stopped to consider that they might have been watching us all along, not as a threat, but as a source of inspiration. In 12 hours, humanity would take its place among the stars, not as conquerors or conquered, but as custodians of something apparently rare and precious throughout the galaxy: the ability to feel deeply and create freely. The United Nations chamber in New York City had never been so full. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat shoulder to shoulder, their usual political differences set aside in the face of humanity's new cosmic reality. On the massive central screen, the star map recovered from Voyager XI glowed with 17 marked points of light, each representing an advanced civilization now aware of humanity's existence. "This changes everything," said Secretary General Kwan, her voice carrying across the hushed chamber. "For centuries, we have wondered if we are alone. Now we know not only that we are not alone, but that we have been observed, studied, and most surprisingly, admired." The chamber remained silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had spent decades preparing for hostile aliens, building defense systems and contingency plans. No one had prepared for aliens who considered human art and emotion to be valuable resources. Dr. Lee Hyun sat in the front row, reviewing his notes. As Earth's leading expert on communication theory and newly appointed head of the First Contact Team, he carried the weight of humanity's first official interaction with an alien species. The archivist vessel will reach Mars orbit in 3 days. he announced when called to speak. They have maintained consistent communication and respected all boundaries we've established. Their technology far exceeds our own, yet they have shown remarkable patience with our protocols. A representative from Brazil raised her hand. Do we believe their stated intentions? This claim that they value our creativity could be a ploy to lower our defenses. Dr. Lee adjusted his glasses. We've analyzed every communication extensively. Their interest in human culture appears genuine. They've provided detailed analyses of Earth art, music, and literature that show deep appreciation rather than strategic assessment. More tellingly, they've shared their own cultural works in return, most of which display the precision and logic they claim to value, but lack the emotional resonance found in human creations. On the smaller screens around the chamber, examples appeared. Alien mathematical symphonies of perfect precision, but no passion. Architectural designs of flawless efficiency, but no beauty for its own sake. Literature that conveyed information without metaphor or symbolism. They are exactly what they claim to be, Dr. Lee continued. Hyperrational species that evolved beyond emotion and intuitive creativity. What they find valuable in us is what they've lost in themselves. 3 days later, Dr. Lee stood on the observation deck of the International Mars Station, watching as the archivist vessel moved into position. The ship defied conventional design logic, its crystalline structure catching the sunlight and refracting it in patterns that seemed both random and purposeful. It was beautiful in an alien way, like a massive geometric sculpture that constantly shifted its angles. Next to him, his team of linguists, anthropologists, artists, and scientists waited in nervous silence. Years of training for first contact scenarios hadn't prepared them for the reality of the moment. Remember, Lee said to his team, they're as curious about us as we are about them. Maybe more so. The communication panel chimed, indicating an incoming transmission. Lee nodded to Communications Officer Kim Doyen, who activated the receiver. The screen filled with an image that took a moment to comprehend. The archivist representative appeared to be a being of crystalline structure similar to their ship, with facets that shifted and rearranged as it communicated. Lights pulsed within its translucent body in patterns that somehow conveyed meaning even before the translation systems processed its words. We come as colleagues, not conquerors, the translation began, the voice synthesized to sound neutral and calm. Your probe taught us that humans possess qualities our civilizations have lost: intuitive leaps, emotional resonance, and the ability to find meaning in the meaningless void. The beam's facets shifted, creating new patterns of light. For millions of years, the civilizations of this galaxy have evolved toward perfect logic and efficiency. We calculated, we built, we expanded, but somewhere along this path, we lost something essential. Your species has reminded us of what we sacrificed for advancement. Dr. Lee stepped forward. We are honored by your interest in our culture. Humanity has much to learn from your technological achievements as well. The crystalline being seemed to pulse more brightly. Technology is easily shared and replicated. What your species possesses cannot be programmed or engineered. It must be felt. This is why we have approached with such care. We do not wish to diminish the very qualities that make humans unique. Over the next 6 hours, the first official dialogue between humanity and an alien civilization unfolded. The archivists explained their role in galactic society. They were collectors and preservers of knowledge, maintaining vast repositories of information from across the stars. They had discovered Voyager XII drifting near one of their deep space monitoring stations and had been fascinated by the cultural samples it contained. We have shared your creative works with other civilizations, the archivist explained. The response has been unprecedented. Images appeared on the screen showing alien beings interacting with human art, a species of tentacled creatures surrounding a display of Van Gogh's Starry Night, their bodies changing colors in apparent emotional response. Insectoid beings moving in strange patterns to the rhythm of classical music. Beings of pure energy attempting to recreate human poetry in their own light-based language. In a galaxy of hyperrational species, your emotions and art have proven to be your greatest strength, the archivist continued. Several ancient civilizations have experienced cultural awakenings after exposure to human creativity. Concepts long abandoned, intuition, inspiration, aesthetic beauty, are being rediscovered. Dr. Lee glanced at his team, seeing the same amazement he felt reflected in their expressions. Humanity had always assumed that advanced aliens would value their scientific achievements, not their art and emotions. The Galactic Consortium wishes to establish formal relations with Earth, the archivist said. We offer technological exchange, scientific cooperation, and protection from less benevolent forces in return for cultural access and creative exchange. Protection? Dr. Lee asked, suddenly alert. Are there threats we should be aware of? The crystalline being's facets shifted to a darker pattern. The galaxy is mostly peaceful, but not all civilizations share our perspective. Some view emotional species as unpredictable and potentially dangerous. The consortium has voted to include Earth under its protective agreements, while your species develops the technology to defend itself adequately. And what exactly does this cultural access entail? Asked Professor Song Minji, the team's cultural anthropologist. We request permission to establish cultural embassies on Earth and human colonies. These would serve as exchange points where humans could share their art, music, literature, and philosophy with representatives from other worlds. In return, we would share knowledge and technology appropriate to your development level. As the meeting continued, the implications became clear. In a single stroke, humanity had gone from isolation to becoming valued members of a galactic community, not for their military might or technological advancement, but for their creativity and emotional intelligence. Later that evening, as the team prepared their report for Earth's governments, Dr. Lee stood alone at the observation window, watching the crystalline ship gleam in the starlight. Everything we thought was a weakness, he said softly to himself. Our emotions, our irrationality, our need to find meaning in chaos, turns out to be our greatest contribution to the galaxy. Earth's governments voted unanimously to accept the consortium's offer 3 days later. Within weeks, preparations began for the establishment of the first alien embassy in human history, not as a diplomatic necessity, but as a cultural exchange center where humanity's creative spirit would become its most valuable export to the stars. The age of human isolation had ended. A new chapter was beginning, one where art and emotion would prove more powerful than any weapon or technology in securing humanity's place among the stars. The walls of Kang Do-yeon's small apartment in Seoul had once been covered with rejection notices. For years, his experimental symphonies had been deemed too emotional, too raw, unmarketable by Earth's major orchestras and recording companies. Now those same walls displayed certificates of appreciation from beings whose names he could barely pronounce. 6 months after humanity's integration into the Galactic Consortium, Do-yeon sat at his old piano, fingers hovering over the keys, as he watched a live feed from the Singapore Cultural Exchange Center. Through the special viewing screen, he could see a group of Marillions, tall, slender beings with iridescent skin, experiencing his third symphony for the first time. Their bodies swayed and pulsed with colors that rippled from deep blue to vibrant purple as the music reached its emotional climax. Remarkable, said the consortium cultural attaché who stood nearby. They're expressing grief. The Marillions haven't displayed this emotional range in recorded history. Do-yeon smiled quietly. His third symphony had been inspired by the loss of his mother years ago. He had poured his grief into every note, creating something human critics had called excessively sentimental. Yet here were beings from a star system 40 light-years away, connecting with his pain across the gulf of species and experience. The doorbell chimed, interrupting his thoughts. Outside stood Min Sora, the consortium's human liaison officer, dressed in the simple blue uniform that identified her role. Good news, Maestro Kang, she said with a smile. The Regelian Philosophy Collective has requested permission to experience your complete works. They're offering technological exchange rights that would normally take decades to negotiate. Do-hyun blinked in surprise. The Rigelians? The data files said they abandoned music as a concept 8,000 years ago. Exactly, Sora replied. After experiencing your second symphony last month, their Cultural Reclamation Council voted unanimously to revisit artistic expression as a species. They've begun creating instruments for the first time in millennia. Do-hyun shook his head in wonder. 6 months ago, he had been considering abandoning composition entirely to take a teaching position. Now his music was literally changing alien cultures. They said my music taught them more about sorrow than millennia of their studies, he remarked, still struggling to accept his new reality. That's precisely why the consortium values human creativity so highly, Sora explained. These species have perfect memory, advanced technology, and lifespans that make ours seem like mayflies. But they've lost something essential in their evolution. At the newly established consortium embassy in Geneva, Dr. Lee Hyun reviewed the latest cultural exchange statistics with growing amazement. In just 6 months, humanity had established cultural exchange programs with 15 of the 17 known civilizations. The flow of alien technology to Earth had accelerated human development by decades, while the export of human creative works had become Earth's most valuable commodity. The numbers are beyond our projections, said Ambassador Cho, the former South Korean diplomat who now represented Earth to the consortium. Demand for human creative works has increased by 300% in the last month alone. Dr. Lee nodded, sliding another datapad across the table. And it's not just established works. The archivists have shared their historical analysis, and it reveals something troubling about our new allies. The ambassador reviewed the information, her expression growing serious. Is this confirmed? Multiple sources, Lee replied. The archivist data is clear. Species that evolved toward pure logic inevitably reached developmental plateaus. Without creativity, innovation eventually halted. Several ancient civilizations have been trapped in technological stasis for millennia. The ambassador set down the pad. So their interest in our creativity isn't just academic or aesthetic. No, Lee said. It's survival. The oldest civilizations in the consortium have been unchanging for thousands of years. Their technology is advanced beyond our comprehension, but it hasn't fundamentally improved in millennia. They've been refining the same concepts over and over without the creative spark to make conceptual leaps. This revelation was spreading across Earth, changing humanity's understanding of their place in the cosmos. Far from being primitive newcomers, humans possessed something that even the most advanced civilizations had lost: the ability to think outside established patterns, to create genuinely new ideas rather than iterations of old ones. In Rio de Janeiro, Sofia Oliveira stepped nervously into the strange environment of the Genta Habitat Dome. As a street artist whose murals had once been dismissed as vandalism, she never imagined her art would be worthy of interstellar attention. Yet the Genta, ancient beings of silicon-based biology, had specifically requested her work. The Genta representative, a crystalline being that moved with careful precision, led Sophia to a prepared wall. We have studied your use of color and emotion. It communicated through its translator. For 10,000 years, our visual expressions have been mathematical and precise. We wish to learn how you create without calculation. Sophia nodded, still overwhelmed by the situation. I just feel the wall, you know. I let the colors speak to me. The concept of feeling a wall seemed to intrigue the gathered Genta observers. Their crystalline forms vibrated slightly, their equivalent of intense interest. Sophia began to work, allowing her intuition to guide her brush strokes. As her mural took shape, a vibrant depiction of human and alien forms intertwined in a dance of color. She noticed the Genta moving closer, their facets reflecting the pigments in patterns that seemed almost emotional. By the time she finished hours later, the Genta were attempting to create their own art on adjacent walls. Their first efforts were stiff and geometrically precise, but as Sophia watched, One young Genta began creating patterns that broke from their traditional forms, swirling, unpredictable shapes that had no mathematical basis. Unprecedented, whispered the consortium observer who had been documenting the exchange. That Genta is displaying true creativity, the first recorded instance in their species in over 5,000 years. Back in Seoul, Do-yeon prepared for his journey to the Rigelian system. As one of the first humans invited to travel beyond the solar system, he felt the weight of responsibility. His small suitcase contained nothing but scores of new compositions he had created specifically for alien sensibilities, works that bridged the gap between human emotion and alien experience. "You understand the significance of this cultural exchange," Min Sora said as they boarded the consortium vessel that would transport them. "The Rigelians are one of the oldest species in the known galaxy. They achieved technological mastery when humans were still learning to use fire, yet they've been stuck in development for thousands of years." Do-yeon nodded, looking out at Earth growing smaller through the viewport. "Because they lost their emotional connection to their work." "Exactly," Sora replied. "Technology without passion becomes sterile. Logic without intuition eventually stagnates. What your music offers them isn't just entertainment. It's a reminder of what they've lost, and possibly a path to reclaiming it." As the ship accelerated beyond anything human engineering could achieve, Do-yeon reflected on the strange turn his life had taken. 6 months ago, he had been a failed composer in a small apartment. Now he was an ambassador of human creativity to the stars, his music more valuable than all the gold on Earth. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human artists, musicians, writers, and philosophers found themselves elevated from obscurity to cosmic significance. The very qualities that many modern human societies have begun to devalue, emotional intelligence, creative thinking, intuitive leaps, had become humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization. And as humans shared their creativity with the stars, they received in return technologies and knowledge that would have taken centuries to develop independently. It was an exchange that benefited both sides, wisdom and technology flowing to Earth, while the spark of human creativity spread outward to reignite the emotional fires of ancient civilizations that had grown cold with age and logic. The orbital station Unity gleamed against the backdrop of Earth, its crystalline extensions and metallic human architecture forming a perfect blend of alien and familiar design. 5 years since first contact, the station had become the physical embodiment of humanity's new place in the cosmic order. Not subjugated, not isolated, but integrated. Admiral Choi Yuma stood before the mirror in her quarters, adjusting the ceremonial uniform that marked her position as Earth's High Representative to the Galactic Consortium. At 53, she had never expected to become the face of humanity to the stars. Her career in the Korean Space Navy had prepared her for defending Earth, not representing it in a galaxy of ancient civilizations. "They're ready for you, Admiral," her aide said through the communication panel. "All 17 species representatives are present." Yunha took a deep breath. Today's ceremony would formalize Earth's new status, a designation that came with both privilege and responsibility. The central chamber of Unity Station had been designed specifically for interspecies gatherings. Its atmosphere, gravity, and temperature could adjust to accommodate the vastly different biological needs of the consortium members. Today it was filled with beings from across the galaxy, some humanoid, others wildly different in form. Crystalline archivists floated beside the insectoid Genta. Energy beings from Rigel pulsed in patterns of excitement near the massive, slow-moving Dovan representatives. As Yunha entered, a respectful silence fell across the assembly. She walked to the central platform, where the ancient archivist known as the Keeper awaited. Its crystalline form shimmered with internal lights that had documented the rise and fall of civilizations for millennia. "Representatives of the Galactic Consortium," the Keeper began, its translated voice flowing through the chamber. "We gather to formalize the status of Earth as the third confirmed wellspring world in our charted galaxy." Murmurs of appreciation rippled through the audience. In 5 years, humanity had learned that despite millions of inhabited worlds, only 2 others had produced species with Earth's particular balance of logical advancement and creative intuition. Most evolved toward either pure creativity without technological growth or perfect logic without emotional depth. For 5 cycles of Earth's star, the Keeper continued, we have observed humanity's integration into our community. In this brief time, human creative works have sparked cultural renaissances on 11 worlds. Technologies dormant for millennia have advanced through human intuitive leaps. Musical forms extinct for eons have been reborn through human inspiration. The massive display behind the Keeper showed scenes from across the galaxy. Alien beings studying human art, literature, music, and philosophy. It showed the results of these exchanges. New architectural forms arising on ancient worlds, musical instruments being crafted by species that had abandoned music thousands of years ago, and technological innovations born from the marriage of alien precision and human creativity. With the status of Wellspring World, the Keeper said, turning to Yuna, comes both privilege and duty. Earth will receive protection and technological exchange rights beyond standard protocols. In return, Earth accepts its role as custodian of creative development for this galactic quadrant.